YouTube friends, what's going on? David back with a brand new video. Today we are talking about color correction made easy. Now if you're using a Blackmagic Pocket 4K, chances are you're using some type of LUT to convert your log image. Now why is there such a thing as a LUT, right? If you're filming in a log, it could be Blackmagic Film, it could be S-Log, it could be V-Log. They don't have the contrast or the saturation in camera because they're meant for you to increase those values when you're in post-production. But the thing with LUTs is sometimes they can go too far, right? They can be too overexposed. There can be not enough saturation, or sometimes there's too much saturation. If you're using a manufacturer provided LUT or the LUT that comes in your editing software like Adobe Premiere Pro or Davinci Resolve or Final Cut Pro 10, sometimes those LUTs just don't get you the image that you want. That's why I'm showing you guys today how to color correct your footage very, very easily on your Blackmagic Pocket 4K. And the reason why I say it's easy is because literally within a few simple steps, you can get the contrast you want, you can get the exposure you want, and also the saturation that you want, right? And then from there, you can go ahead and color grade your footage however you see fit. But today we're just talking about color correction. We're just talking about how to get a usable image that you can immediately send to your client, or if it's for something else, could be a short film, could be a music video, whatever it is, you have an image that is readily able to go. We're gonna be using Davinci Resolve. That is my editor of choice and also my color grading and color correction software of choice. But these principles will apply no matter if you're using Premiere Pro or Final Cut Pro 10. I've been using the Blackmagic Pocket 4K for the past year on various projects. So I have 3 different examples for you guys showing you how exactly you can color correct different exposure levels, how to white balance those images without having to use a LUT. But I'm also going to show you guys what it looks like when you do use a simple conversion LUT, what it does, why I don't like using LUTs a lot of the times, and then how you can kind of bring back levels with a LUT if you need to use a LUT. All right, without further ado, let's go ahead and hop into Davinci Resolve and I will show you guys how to color correct your Blackmagic Pocket 4K footage. Alrighty guys, we are in Davinci Resolve. This is my editing software of choice, also everything from color grading and color correction and audio, all the post-production jazz I do in Davinci Resolve. What I'm gonna show you guys today can be applied to Adobe Premiere Pro or Final Cut Pro 10. It may look different as far as the user interface goes, but the principles and the majority of the controls are going to be very, very similar. We're going to be working mostly with curves for color correction, and I'm going to show you guys exactly why. Alrighty, so we have 3 different clips I'm going to show you guys. First one was just me in the morning making some coffee during sunrise. Second one will be from a client shoot that I did last week. It'll be a day exterior. Sunset as well, beach kind of vibe, ocean kind of vibe. And then the third one will be a day interior, talking head, teleprompter kind of thing with the 2 camera setup. But let's go ahead and work with this first one. When you're going through color correction, the first thing you want to do is you want to desaturate your image. And actually I need to adjust my workspace, so give me 1 second because I have my dual screen on. You guys can't see my scopes and all that kind of stuff. Oh, okay, there we go. All right, so we're gonna be working in this space right here. Now the reason why we want to desaturate our image is we don't want to color correct our footage based upon color. We want to color correct our footage based upon exposure, right? So we go ahead and desaturate our image, 0. And as you can see from our RGB parade, everything looks pretty even when it comes to color levels, right? Okay, so from here, we're gonna work with our curves. This is how I do it. You can use wheels or whatever you like. I find curves to be more precise and more accurate because I can actually see how far low I'm going, how far high I'm going. All right, so we're gonna start with our blacks. You can start with your whites. I prefer to just start with my blacks. That is my method. This clip does have movement, so if we kind of scrub the timeline, you can see that I move in, kind of orbiting around into our glorious backlight. All right. Now there's 2 things. One is we have an exposure change, right? Here, no sun. Here we have sun. If I start to adjust my black levels here, right, I'm just gonna go ahead and do it to a level. Okay, cool. If I adjust it here, my entire clip that I actually want to see is a whole thing, right? Let's just say we want to show the whole entire thing. If I go back, now you can see my blacks are pretty crushed, right? There's really not much here. Obviously, when you bring up the saturation, all that kind of stuff, it'll come to life, right? but the information is almost gone. You can see here, right? There's just nothing here. It's below 0. So you have to make a choice, right? Do you want this crushed, or do you want to have a little bit less contrast here? Let's try to find a middle ground. So if we go here, we're gonna adjust our black point to right a little bit above 0. Okay, so 0 meaning right here, this line here. I don't wanna go all the way down to 0. I wanna go just a little bit above and keep some contrast here, okay? Scroll our timeline, and yeah, it could be a little bit more contrasty, but that's okay because I wanna be able to, utilize the entire clip, okay? So like about here. All right, now the next thing is our white points. I did film all these clips in Blackmagic Raw, meaning I have the ability to recover my highlights. Now, highlight recovery in Blackmagic Raw gives you anywhere between 2 and 3 stops back into your highlights. So when you're recording something, and if you feel or if you see something that looks clipped, chances are, if you're shooting in Blackmagic Raw, you can recover that clipped area. Okay, so let's go ahead and uncheck this so I can show you guys what that actually looks like. Let's uncheck it. Okay, now if I go forward in the timeline, right, to our glorious sunrise, okay, you can see here that information is pretty gone, right? Not only scientifically through the scopes, but also visually, you can see that it's just like, you can guess that there's a sun here, right? But if I start to lower my levels, that clipped information stays there, right? It doesn't matter if I try to go down and try to, adjust exposure, I'm just lowering the overall exposure, okay? Now, if we check our highlight recovery, where we tell Davinci Resolve, hey, I want you to recover my highlight information as best as possible. We hit this guy, go back to our white point. As we start to bring it back down, you can see that my scopes are actually expanding, right? They're actually changing values from the entirety. And now, right, we'll get it right up back to, we'll lower it to right up below 100, okay? Now you can see here, you can actually start to see the shape of our sun, right? Whereas before, if we uncheck this, okay, you can just see its sky, right? So the sun is kind of masking itself inside of the sky. If we check highlight recovery, boom, now I can actually see that blown out information. I can actually see the shape of the sun, okay? We'll scroll this back a little bit. Okay, that looks fine. That looks fine because obviously our area of focus is the coffee dripping down, right? Let me go here and boom, okay? All right, so now that we have our blacks set, we have our white point set. You could introduce some contrast if you want. Different ways, you can use the curve here and just create a little bit of contrast. We go back, okay, so it looks pretty good. You can also use the wheels here if you like. From here, contrast is good, our levels are good. Let's reset our saturation to normal, which in Resolve is 50. From here, I want to bring back all the saturation in the image, right? I choose to use RGB mixer. There's different ways you can do it, but this is the way that I have found to work pretty good, okay? We're gonna increase our red channel, increase our green channel, and increase our blue channel, right? And that's basically telling Resolve like, hey, out of red, green, and blue that's making up the colors of this image, I want you to go to the maximum for all these colors. And then later on in your color grading is when you can choose to desaturate parts of the image or the whole image. Right now, again, we're focusing on just color correction and how to make color correct be made easy, right, for all of us or for anyone who owns a Blackmagic Pocket 4K. All right, so that is basically our first node. We'll go ahead and label this CC for color correction. You'll add a new node. From this new node is our last step in color correction, and then you're pretty much good. Okay, we're gonna label this WB for white balance, because now since we corrected our exposure, we want to correct our color. Now, if you take a look at the RGB parade, you can see there's a lot of green, there is a lot of red, not too much blue, right? And if you think about this realistically, right, this is sunrise, so kind of like a warmish sky, but the sky should still be blue. And then we have foliage here, and then I did have ND, as I was shooting wide open at a T1.5 on the SLR Magic. So you need a lot of ND, even shooting slow motion. I think this is 4K 60 frames, but still need a good amount of ND to keep the exposure optimal. All right. Different ways to do this. Obviously, the best way is to have a color chart, right? Color picker chart here. You can just color pick your neutral gray, then you're good, right? We don't have it here. So instead, what I like to do is I like to use the log wheels here, use the offset, and then go into the opposite direction of the most primary color in the image, right? So right now it's mostly green. You can kind of see it's like a green, greenish hue around it. I did shoot Blackmagic RAW, so sure I could adjust this, but let's just say that you aren't shooting Blackmagic RAW, you're shooting ProRes, okay? Take your offset log control and start to go into the opposite direction of our green, right? So we want to add in some more blue teal. Okay, that looks okay. This looks pretty neutral right now. Okay, so if we go here, that's looking pretty neutral, right? You can start to see more blue sky. All right, let's go ahead and disable our white balance node. Okay, green sky, blue sky, right? Greenish wall, more neutral looking wall. Because this house is, I think this house is white, or the outside paint is white, right? White garage, white walls, white window frame, okay? And that's it. This is pretty much color correction, right? We have two nodes. All we did in our first one, let me just enable this. All we did in our first one was we desaturated the image, set our black point, set our white point, Blackmagic RAW. If you have it, you recovered our highlight. And then we added just a little bit of contrast, increased the RGB channels to maximum, and then we just white balanced out the image. And that's it, right? So this is color correction in a nutshell, and this will work for the most part on any camera, but since I've been shooting with the Blackmagic Pocket 4K for a good solid year on multiple projects, I've had a lot of time with the image and with the footage. After you color correct your footage, now you have the opportunity to go in any direction you want when it comes to color grading, right? But now let's see a different example. Okay, so this is our surfboard company that we were working with last year. Alex, who is the owner, we have him on the beach with one of his surfboards from South Bay Board Co. All right, shallow anamorphic. We have him going from the middle of the beach all the way out, kind of heading out towards the ocean, and then nice little lens flare here, and this is pretty much the scene. Okay, now what I'm going to do with this example is I'm going to show you guys what it looks like when you're using just a standard Rec 709 conversion LUT, right? Something just to kind of get your contrast and your saturation back. All right, if we start here, let's go ahead and just label this 709. Okay. Right click, go to our LUTs. These are just the built-in LUTs that come with Davinci Resolve 3D LUT. Blackmagic Design, we go down to Blackmagic Pocket 4K Film. We have two options, extended video and video 4. Video 4 will get you Rec 709. Extended video will get you kind of like a less contrasty version of Rec 709. But for simplicity's sake, let's just go with video 4. Okay, boom. So as you can see from this image here, I got some contrast back. We got some saturation back. My sun is completely, like, all you see is just the rays coming from it, right? You can kind of make out the shape of it, but the rest of this sky is just pretty nuclear white, right? So now we want to try to, get some of this information back. It's best to create a node before the LUT as your color correction node, right? So we'll just go like CC, right? Because I just want to be able to get back some of those highlights. The thing when you use a 709 LUT is all the information is already kind of mapped and you can't change it. So if I try to bring back my highlights, right, and it's just kind of underexposing my whole image now, right? Now let's go into our raw controls. Let's hit highlight recovery. Okay, so this is before. You can see the sun's pretty much clipped here, but at least I got back some of the shape of it, right? If I hit highlight recovery, now you can see more depth and more perimeter to more shape to the sun. Okay, and I'm just about clipped, but I have to still go a little bit lower, a little bit lower, a little bit lower, just to get my entire sun back, right? But not everything is just underexposed. Okay, so this is one reason why sometimes you don't want to use a LUT, is because it's really hard to get back your exposure, so to say, right? So let's go ahead and just disable these. We can use these as a comparison later on. Okay, we'll create 2 more nodes in the front. Call this white balance, call this color correction. All right, so again, same thing, right? Because we have our no sun area and then our sun area. We're gonna go back right before our sun starts to peek in, desaturate our image, okay? We're gonna bring our blacks down ever so slightly, right? Just add some contrast, okay? And again, we still have our highlight recovery checked. Now I could go all the way down to 0 black if I wanted to, right? But now it's looking just a little bit kind of just too dark, right? And the reason being is because we have the sun here, obviously, right? So I go just a little bit above 0 just to kind of have some exposure on his face, some exposure in the background trees and foliage, okay? Let's adjust this probably right here, okay? We'll go forward, forward, forward. That's where our sun is, right? From here, let's go ahead and adjust our exposure down. Keep out right below 100, okay? Switch this to our parade. Yep, looking pretty good. All right, we'll reset our saturation. We will increase our red, our green, and our blue. All right, so this is the difference, right, between just manually color correcting it, right? You can look at the overall exposure, look at the sun, the shape of the sun, and then this is what it looks like if you try to use Rec 709 and then try to bring the information back, right? Yes, I did bring the information back, but everything is just underexposed and I really don't want that, okay? So you could say, oh, okay, well, you can just raise the blacks, right? Cool. So if I raise the blacks, then I have to, adjust the contrast, losing his face, right? Maybe a little bit lower, another point, right? Rather than having to do all this and still have an underexposed image, you can just not use the LUT, right? Not use the conversion LUT and just manually color correct it, right? And now you have an even exposure and I still got the sun, okay? We need to fix our white balance, so let's go ahead and do that. We're gonna go to our wheels, make sure we're in the log wheels. And again, still kind of looking a little green, right? For the most part, we got a lot of green, not a lot of blue. So let's go ahead and just adjust until we can see a little bit. Maybe here, let's go back a little bit. Okay, so this is before, pretty green, right? And maybe you want this warmer look, right? I'm not saying this is the way you have to do it. I'm just saying if you want a neutral place to start color grading, then you may want to make sure all your colors are just, normal looking colors, right? This is before, this is after, okay? Before, you can see on the parade here, right? Before and after, okay? Just getting our color ballpark even, all right? Even tonality is the name of the game, all right? Cool, now last example, we actually have a color chart here. Okay, this is again like a talking head kind of deal here, 2 camera setup. We're just gonna go with the main camera. Again, Blackmagic Pocket 4K. I already had set the white balance. Basically, you just create a node and you use the white balance picker and you pick your, your neutral gray, your neutral white. Right, and you can see that it actually did adjust here, escape here. Our temperature is changed and our tint has changed, okay? This is our main clip that we're working with. All right, white balance, already I copied it over. Let's go ahead and set our main node CC for color correction. Go ahead and desaturate our image. All right, we're gonna set our blacks to an appropriate level, probably about right here because I can still see her face, right? I can still see most of her clothes. If I go any lower, I'm probably gonna start losing her face and a lot of her clothes, so I don't want to go that far down, okay? We are again shooting in Blackmagic RAW, so we have highlight recovery on. We're going to bring down our whites to recover our highlights, okay? And again, not too much. And what helped here compared to the other clips, right? If I go back here, all right, CC, and then if I go back here, CC, not too much, right? And even in this clip, or is it here, right? Not too much, okay? It's just enough. You shouldn't need to, unless you're shooting something extremely bright, you shouldn't need to reduce your whites too much if you're shooting Blackmagic RAW, all right? So we got this set. Let's go ahead and reset our saturation. We'll increase our red, green, blue, okay? Now, I could probably bring up the exposure just a little bit, all right? Just ever so slightly, okay? And maybe increase here, okay? Just to kind of help her pop out of from the background, okay? And then we enable our white balance clip, or white balance node, I apologize, okay? And I mean, that's it, right? Super, super easy way. It's not trying to make color correction like super scientific or trying to involve 5 steps or anything like that, right? Literally, it's just setting your black point, setting your white point, adding a little contrast any way you want with the curves or with the wheels, and then just white balancing on your image, right? That's really it. This is basically what a Rec 709 conversion LUT should be doing. But a lot of times these conversion LUTs are kind of just all or nothing, right? You use the LUT and then, right? So let's go ahead and disable this. Disable this. We'll call this 709, right? You use the conversion LUT and you're basically just stuck with what the LUT's giving you, right? So yeah, we'll go to video 4, okay? My highlights are the way gone, right? And I even have highlight recovery on, okay? So let's try to recover what we can, right? We're trying to recover what we can. And I gotta go all the way down, right? Just to bring back my highlight information, okay? And basically, if I go past here, you see on the RGB parade that it, Davinci's like, well, now you gotta just clip it, okay? And this is just a completely underexposed image. If I disable it, and if I just say, well, I guess it looks okay, right? You're not really doing your job, are you, right? So again, let's disable our LUT. Our manual color correction is here. Our white balance is here, right? And now we have an evenly exposed and a really nice looking image that you could deliver straight to your client, right? Without having to spend like hours and hours and hours and hours doing everything by hand. So again, color correction is just simply setting your exposure levels, setting your saturation levels, setting your white balance, and then from there, if you choose to color grade, you can. If you are crunched for time or you don't need to color grade, then like that's it. This took a couple seconds to do, right? And you're not at the mercy of a 709 LUT. And there you guys go, color correcting your Blackmagic Pocket 4K footage easy. Like I said, a few simple steps. It takes you a few seconds to literally get the levels that you want and the saturation, the contrast that you want. LUTs are great. LUTs have a time and place. Mainly if you're using a creative LUT, something for a creative look, then that's where you can get very stylized, right? That's where you can really create the image that you want. But for many of us, we just simply want an image that has contrast, that has saturation, that's good enough out of the pocket, so to speak, and we can deliver to our clients, get it exported, get it out for everyone to watch and to view. But let me know your guys' thoughts on using LUTs, if you like it, if you don't like it, and any tips you can provide the rest of our audience, the rest of our community with your color correction tips and tricks. If you guys have any questions, comments, leave them down below. Love to hear from you guys as always. Like the video if you liked it. Subscribe to my YouTube channel as always, just so you know if I have new content coming out. And remember friends, every day you have an opportunity to create your experience and to write and tell your own story. My name's David Lee, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.